So please help me welcome to the stage Miriam Basinger and Don Taylor.
We're excited to be here tonight and talk to you about a subject that this time of year always really comes up at the end of October. And I actually think it's a subject that most of us, if a clicker will work here, most of us struggle with throughout all of our life, and that is fear. And tonight, Miriam's going to tell you her story, and I'm just going to be along for the ride with her a little bit. And so I'm going to get started right away, Miriam. And would you mind telling us, you've told me that much of your life has been characterized by that four-letter word on that screen right there, fear. What was the foundation that caused you so much fear in your life?
My earliest memory involves fear. For the first 6 years of my life, my family, we lived in Luxembourg. And my brother, who was 4 years old and I was 2, was killed in a car accident. And shortly afterwards, my father was cutting my brother's hair and with clippers. And being a typical curious toddler, I got into his hair clipping things. And I just remember he comes flying at me with a rage and just gritting his teeth, and he just yanks me up and he starts just beating on me. And I remember being so terrified that I wet myself. And that was my earliest memory of fear.
So a place that was supposed to be really safe for you, all of a sudden became a fearful place at 2 years old.
Yes.
And you can remember seeing the rage in your father's eyes even
Yes.
now.
Yes.
What happened to that fear? Did it grow? Did it subside?
When I was 6 years old, my family, we moved to the States. And I remember after we moved to Virginia, a week later we started school. And I remember learning to read English, just learning English and then learning to read. And I was having trouble translating, because I would start out in English and end up in German. And, the kids would be, and I was just remember that. And it was very much a struggle.
That sounds pretty scary at 6 years old.
Yes. And then when I was in second grade, now I'm trying to keep my father from flying into rages at me. And my oldest brother started sexually abusing me. And so I couldn't focus on learning. And I failed second grade. And, I remember going to tell my father, and I went up and got, Pop, I failed second grade, and he just hauled off and slapped me across the face. And, I can still almost feel that burning and feel that welt. And just the look of disdain in his face. And, shortly after that, he would just refer to me as retarded.
So your father isn't safe.
No.
Your brother isn't safe. Is there anything safe at home at all? Is there any place for a little girl, a little 7 or 8 year old girl, to go and find a safe haven?
My mother was. And she was very loving. But when, shortly after my father divorced and took us kids, and Mom just didn't have resources to keep us at all. And, later on that would become the psychological warfare that my stepmother and my dad would use, like, your mother didn't want you, she just wouldn't fight for you, so she didn't want you.
So you had a little bit of safety, and then the safety was gone.
Yes.
And all you had was this deep pit of fear in that home. No other safe place in that home?
Not in the home. It was interesting because there was a time when I thought I could make my father proud. And because when I was in 8th grade, I got to the advanced English class. And I was like, yes, I've done this. And so I couldn't wait for, the school told me they were going to call my father. And so I couldn't wait because I thought for sure he's going to be proud of me. Rather, he was angry that he had to leave work and take off work and come to sign the papers. And he looked at me and said, you're not going to do this. You're not going to be able to succeed. And I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. And it just like somebody just ripped the backbone out. And it was just like...
So school, which was almost a safe haven for you, because of your father, all of a sudden became scary again.
It did. And basically school became a place to make friends and really focus on the people. And during my senior year, I had it, and I thank God, and I mean that, I thank God that, because I left in the middle of my senior year, I just left home, and this friend of a friend had heard about my story, and her family took me in. And you have to understand, my father was a pacifist pastor when I was younger, and this family was a military family, so there was this complete contrasting, for me, and it was really wrapping my head around that. But they showed me, such respect and kindness.
Well, that had to be a little confusing to you because you have a pacifist preacher father violently abusing you and a military family passionately loving and accepting you.
Yes.
Do you think that was a little bit of a turnaround in the whole
It was
foundation
one of a
of fear?
series of things because my mother, in the meantime, had been saving and was able to come and get me. And, I was a mess when she got me. And, I'll never forget, because here's my little Mennonite mom, and I just get really drunk, like passed out, and just get sick all over myself. And she cleaned me up, and just lovingly cleaned me up. And rather than beat me or tell me I was stupid, she just unconditionally loved me. And so that was the first thing. And in 1984, I met and married my husband, Richard. And for the first time, someone looked at me and said, "You are intelligent." He said, "I like your snappy brown eyes." And that was like I was able to rest in my, and become secure.
So you went from being retarded in one man's eyes and accepted in another man's eyes.
Yes.
And where did it grow from there?
One thing that's interesting about Richard's family, they value learning. And so when I was getting to know his family, we had played Pictionary with the cousins. You have to understand now, the 6 cousins, 4 of them were going to grad school for their PhD and their MDs. And so we're playing Pictionary, and I'm feeling...
You're playing Pictionary with 4 doctoral candidates and you.
Yes, who barely slid through high school. And I'm just withdrawing. And
why are you withdrawing?
Because I'm feeling stupid. And cousin Carl, who was going through residency doing with psychiatry work, honed in on that. And he asked me some questions. And he said, "Miriam, you are smart." He said, "You've got survival smarts." And I'm thinking, that's nice, but I want to be smart like you guys are. And he said something that absolutely rocked my world and changed my life. He said, "Do you think intelligent people know all the answers?" And I'm like, "Yeah, look." And he said, "No, intelligent people know how to ask the right questions and look for the answers." And I remember thinking, I can do that. And that really changed my life.
And did you do it?
Yes, I did. I graduated from Blue Ridge Community College, cum laude, and then later on I had the privilege of going to EMU as well and graduating cum laude.
So the word we have on the screen now is restored.
Yes.
So through the acceptance of loved ones, it knocked out fear.
Yes.
And it restored confidence into your life.
Yes.
How did it grow from there?
When I was at EMU, first when I was working at Blue Ridge, I had dealt with the internal fear, the fears that growing up, and then you don't realize that some of these external fears are coming on you that all of us are faced with. And it was post 9/11, and I was this beautiful young lady with a hijab came up to me, and
Scarf on her.
yes, it's the head covering, And the thought went through my mind, your people hate me and they want to kill me. And it's like for the first time, I heard the voice in my head. And it was like, whoa.
It's like fear jumping right back in.
Yes. And it was like, where did that come from? And I was kind of taken aback and really took a look at that. And then I really addressed it, and it really came to the surface at EMU in the Cultural Perspectives class, because listening to the stories of the immigrants that have come here, the people that have come here, it brought to remembrance what it was like for me when I came here to learn English and go through that journey. And I was determined at that point I was going to be a peace builder and a bridge builder, peacemaker and bridge builder. And I decided through that I was going to become an advisor for Spectrum, which is a multicultural international club. And the students then became my teacher. And man, those kids are resilient, and the stories they tell, it has just been amazing. And this summer, I had the neatest privilege. You remember I told you about the young lady with the hijab? This summer, I got invited by some young ladies to a graduation party with all Muslim women. And so once the door shut, off came the hijabs and the bayas, which is the robes. And we laughed and we danced and we just had the best time, just breaking bread together. And I remember going home and thinking, man, if I wouldn't have faced those fears or questioned that, I would have missed this amazing, rich opportunity. I would still be in this little box.
So what do you think the lesson about fear is that you take away from that in overcoming that foundation of fear?
We all have it. We all at some point face some kind of fear. It's to challenge the fear and then be the helping hand to somebody else, or just to be that encourager. The people who made the difference in my life, you all can make a difference in the life of someone else. We can't control what's going to happen in the world, but we can control our world, the people we touch.
So your fear as a foundation in your life was conquered by the acceptance of people that loved you just for who you were.
Yes.
And then it grew when you chose to accept people that you didn't totally understand.
Yes, and accept them where they are and where we all are, because we're all at various places. We're all growing.
You told me that your grandfather, or your husband's grandfather, had a great saying that would probably be good advice for all of us in conquering our own fears.
I love this what Grandpa Wenger used to say, is you're never old until you stop learning. So we're all living and breathing, so we're not done. We're not old because we're still learning.
And we're learning to conquer our fears.
Yes.
Thank you, Miriam, for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.